Hi, everyone. Today is Tuesday, December 23rd, 2025. Welcome. I'm Jeffrey Morgan, and this is a talk I host twice a week to discuss my experiences on the path of soul transcendence. I offer this work through the movement of spiritual inner awareness with the encouragement and support of my friend John Morton, who holds the mystical traveler consciousness, which is the spiritual consciousness that allows us to do the work that we're doing here today. If you're new to the call, the format is simple. We're going to call ourselves forward into the light, which is calling our awareness forward into the light of God that's already present. And then we're going to chant 3 Anai hues. Hue is an ancient name for God, and Anai invokes a quality of empathy and compassion. Then I'm going to play a video clip from my teacher, John Roger. And then I'm going to do a reading from Khalil Gibran, and then we can talk about whatever you would like. So with that, if you'd like to gently close your eyelids, I'll call us forward into light. Beloved Father, Mother God, we call ourselves forward into your love and light and sound. And as we reach up into our higher form, we ask to be filled, surrounded, and protected by the light of the Holy Spirit, and the light of the Christ, so that only that which is for the highest good will take place here. We ask for this, Lord, with love and understanding, taking into account each soul's destiny on this planet. We open ourselves even more fully to your precious presence, to the loving that we are. And we ask for the clearing, that any karma or negativity that can be lifted be taken into the highest realms of light and dispersed into the nothingness from which it came. We do this session in the presence and under the guidance of the mystical traveler consciousness. And we ask for the energy and presence of the Lord Jesus Christ and John Roger to infuse all that we're doing. And once again, we ask all of this for the highest good. We ask for a special blessing of light to extend out to all those in transition, whether that's a transition of a cycle of life, or whether that's moving from the physical into the spiritual, or whether that's discovering more fully who we truly are in spirit. We ask that the light bless all the transitions and all the passages into spirit, that each step of our journey be imbued with this loving, with this awareness, with this knowing, and with this gratitude. For we are grateful. Lord, we know that the blessings already are, and we receive of it. And above all, we know that your will is done, and for this we give our thanks. And so it is.
there's a great commandment to love God with all your body, mind, and soul. And I mean, that doesn't leave anything in there except totality. And then here was the real hook: to love your neighbor as yourself. So who do you love first? Your neighbor? No. You love yourself first. And when you're really loving, now does that sound selfish? It's not what we call spoiled. I call it selfing. When we do truly start loving ourselves and we've got the energy of God flowing down through us, and that is that love present, you reach over to your neighbor and you touch them and they'll transform right in front of you because you love them. Have you ever seen this happen to people when they fall in love and you say, my God, look, they're in love, they're beautiful, their face is lit up, they're radiant. Everybody loves a lover. Why? Because we see the loving in them and we recognize it because it is in us. And it's quite true. If I said to you, I love you, that's really a statement of error. It's really, when I see you, that place inside of me that is loving comes more awake and dynamic inside of me. Because I am having the greatest relationship with you inside of me. And I want you around to keep reminding me about that place that is loving, lest I forget. And so we join in partnerships. It could be business, it could be marriage, it could be a lot of things. Just so that we keep remembering that we are a loving being first and foremost, and that we're creators. And if we're creating loving and we have to harvest at the end what we've created, guess what we get to do? We get to send on the pillar of loving straight into the heart of God.
This is On Love by Khalil Gibran from the book The Prophet. Then said Almitra, speak to us of love. And he raised his head and looked upon the people. And there fell a stillness upon them. And with a great voice he said, when love beckons to you, follow him. Those ways are hard and steep. And when his wings enfold you, yield to him, though the sword hidden among his pinions may wound you. And when he speaks to you, believe in him, though his voice may shatter your dreams as the north wind lays waste the garden. For even as love crowns you, so shall he crucify you. Even as he is for your growth, so is he for your pruning. And as he ascends to your height and caresses your tenderest branches that quiver in the sun, so shall he descend to your roots and shake them in their clinging to the earth. Like sheaves of corn he gathers you unto himself. He threshes you to make you naked. He sifts you to free you from your husks. He grinds you to whiteness. He kneads you until you are pliant. And then he assigns you to his sacred fire, that you may become sacred bread for God's sacred feast. All these things shall love do unto you, that you may know the secrets of your heart, and in that knowledge become a fragment of life's heart. But if in your fear you would seek only love's peace and love's pleasure, then it is better for you that you cover your nakedness and pass out of love's threshing floor into the seasonless world where you shall laugh, but not all of your laughter, and weep, but not all of your tears. Love gives not but itself and takes not but from itself. Love possesses not, nor would it be possessed, for love is sufficient unto love. When you love, you should not say, God is in my heart, but rather, I am in the heart of God. And think not you can direct the course of love, for love, if it finds you worthy, directs your course. Love has no other desire but to fulfill itself. But if you love and must needs have desires, let these be your desires: to melt and be like a running brook that sings its melody to the night, to know the pain of too much tenderness, to be wounded by your own understanding of love, and to bleed willingly and joyfully, to wake at dawn with a winged heart and give thanks for another day of loving, to rest at the noon hour and meditate love's ecstasy, to return home at eventide with gratitude, and then to sleep with a prayer for the beloved in your heart and a song of praise upon your lips. All right, there you go. All right, Birdie.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I just learned so much every time I'm with you. And I have a question about um, you've been talking a lot about the basic self lately.
Okay.
And I, for years, I think in USM, maybe 20 years ago or something, I gotten in touch with my basic self, or I thought I did. And she's this little 6 or 7 year old who dresses in a tutu and tap or ballet slippers and little flowers with streamers on her hair. And we've been connecting ever since. And a couple of years ago, during an insight seminar where they talked about the basic self, I heard her say, I want you to connect with me every day. So every morning for a couple of years, we've been connecting. And then when you started talking about, and I may have this totally wrong, because whatever my perceptions are, you started talking about the basic self like a computer. And all of a sudden, some mass chaos started happening inside of me where now in the morning when I go to talk to my little girl, she shows up. But also, as I've thought about the computer image, this kind of dark mass of nothingness shows up and it doesn't communicate with me. It won't talk. My little girl, the what I thought was my basic self, just hugs me and loves me, and we connect and move together. But this other part, it's like every morning it just seems to grow bigger and bigger. And I have no clue what that is or what to do with it at this point.
Hmm.
Help.
Yeah, I seem to have broken your metaphors.
Yeah,
Um,
big time. And I'm fine with that, but I just don't understand.
yeah, so
I would like to.
yeah, so firstly, I don't purport to be an expert in any of what I'm sharing other than to say that I share from my experience.
Yeah.
And I think that I've always said do what works for you, and it seems to work for you to use a metaphor. I think that I've also said in the context of cultivating healthy relationship with the basic self and the high self, oftentimes the metaphors used in the three selves model, and particularly in Huna, which is sort of the birthplace of that three selves model, that the high self could be thought of almost as a head of household, more of a masculine frequency like a father, that the conscious self is like a mother, and that the basic self is like a child. So there's kind of the high self is more about directing and doing what's best, kind of make the difficult decisions, but do what needs to be done. The conscious self is more responsive and has the capability to very consciously nurture the basic self. And the basic self becomes like a child. What I have described, my experience with the basic self and observing the complexity of it, is I've said it's like a supercomputer with the innocence of a child. So it has all this incredible power, but it's going to take direction in a very innocent way. Like if you tell a little child something, it's just so incredibly easy to gaslight a child in a sense because they just believe what you say. So the
Yeah.
basic self, my experience is the basic self, you'll give it a direction and it'll say, okay, beloved, I'll go do that. But then you'll give it a contradictory direction, it'll go, okay, beloved, I'll go do that. And then it'll do that over and over. And it's like you've got all this horsepower of subconscious processes that it's in charge of behind those decisions and directives. And it's trying so hard to fulfill the directives that it's being given that it can often become very tangled and difficult to work with. So one can be very reductionist in a sense. If you read books on Huna, books by folks like Max Freedom Long or Serge Kahili King, or folks who purport to know something about the three selves model, they will reduce the basic self to merely the subconscious. And I would say that there's there's other sources as well that talk about that are a little bit more in the theosophy side of things and that would look at the basic self as a bit more than that. I think it's all about functional efficacy. If it works for you to use a little girl as a metaphor because it allows you to nurture yourself, then I think you should do that. The reality is, with all of these structures, we're dealing with mental models and fictions. At the end of the day, there really is not three selves. There's one self with three expressions. If you talk to any Huna practitioner, that's the great secret. High self, conscious self, basic self are just frameworks that are useful. And actually, when things are working well, there's this thing called the spiritual marriage, which has all three working as one in harmony. And in fact, there are metaphorical representations where they have one deity, I think that's associated with the ocean that corresponds to the ocean corresponds to like conscious self, so more yin, more feminine water. Um, High self is more sky and mountain or something like that. And then basic self and like the ultimate person, like the Ubermensch or whatever, like their version of like the to is actually a combination of all of those figures as one symbolically. So I think it's just important in any using any model that indeed it is a model. And I think that we were very lucky to have a teacher like John Roger who was always just saying use what works for you, because we can get so hung up on theory. And I don't want you to take what I say. I'm only saying that the supercomputer thing because I've just found that there's an incredible amount going on in the subconscious that most people don't ever really deal with. But you may not need to deal with all of that. I deal with all that because people come to me with really complex problems for some reason, and then they want to actually figure out how to untangle the Christmas lights. And a lot of the tangles happen to live in the subconscious. So we start working on those. And the basic self has various interfaces by which we can communicate with the subconscious. Some people do it through muscle testing. Some people do it through intuition or feelings in their body. But either way, the basic self's responsibility is so vast. I mean, it's interesting. I've heard in seminars John Roger talk about just the majesty of the basic self and like how we can be very reductionist about it. There's actually two really good seminars on the three selves. I think one is called the three selves. The second one is actually called the spiritual marriage, I want to say. And he kind of goes back and says, here's all the misconceptions that people developed about the three selves from the last time I talked about this. And one of the misconceptions is people think the basic self is just a little child. Child within is a different construct. Child within is more a sense, memory, impression of all the experiences you had through the developmental stages that is a direct response to the patterning of your life. The actual basic self is extremely complex energy form, extremely complex.
Hmm. So
But
that brings,
but I don't think it's a problem if you have created a story or a mock-up that works for you, then you should use it. You don't need to worry about whatever you think is going on or whatever you think I said. Just use what works for you and leave the rest.
got it. That's really clear, and I appreciate that. And it brings up two questions
Okay.
for me. One, how do I get rid of this dark part, that fogginess that shows up along with her? And then the second question is a question I've had for quite a while. What is the difference between the subconscious and the unconscious? So they're two totally different questions, but I'm curious about both.
My okay, so I'll speak to my experience and I'll candidly, I've researched this and found inconsistent answers. So I'll just say for me, the unconscious corresponds to the etheric level and the collective unconscious of human of all of humanity in that sense. So there's a collectivity to the unconscious level. There's a subjectivity in the sense that you have an individual expression of the unconscious and you have an etheric level body that will hold information. So you have that level. The subconscious can refer to any number of the subconscious processes by which most of what human experiences is comprised of. So the subconscious mind would be the one that is below your conscious awareness, which happens to comprise most of what you're experiencing right now.
Hmm.
So I would call it a subset, and under the energetic responsibility of the basic self.
So
And, huh?
you're saying the subconscious is under the basic self? Is that
Or
is that
not
correct?
under as in hierarchical, but as in under is part of the responsibility of the basic self.
Okay.
I think in certain disciplines, and in certain like I said in Huna, usually they will say that the basic self and the subconscious mind are the same thing, and that doesn't match my experience. The basic self seems to be broader. It seems to have responsibility over the psychic centers of the body, and it seems to have a broader responsibility in interfacing with the Akashic records and other things. So, subconscious seems to be a very reductionist way of describing what the basic self does, but it is indeed a subset of what the basic self does.
Okay. You're gonna have to re-listen to that. It's a lot of words
And
for me.
again, this is my experience. You should do your own research.
Yeah, I'm
And
working on it.
I would also say that you can you can bring John Roger in when you're talking to your basic self and ask him about the dark blob. It could just be a thought form of all the confusion you created around the thing that I supposedly said. It could also be something that the basic self is bringing forward for you to look at and potentially clear. So you could actually ask her. One of the reasons I mentioned the supercomputer thing is there's a kind of a most people that interact with children don't necessarily treat them as smarter or wiser than them, but your basic self on quite a few levels is in fact smarter than you. So that's why I say it's the supercomputer with the innocence of a child, because most people are somewhat patronizing or condescending when it comes to their basic self. And I think it's better to have an honoring and an understanding that this is a being that manages an incredible amount. It may interact like a child, There might be a real sweetness there, which is wonderful, but please understand that you don't know how to run your autonomic nervous system. You don't know how to digest food. It knows how to do that. You don't know how to do that. So just understanding that, or you don't know how to run psychic centers, you don't know how to do all that stuff. So just having that respect at the same time as that nurturing and understanding what you're dealing with. And also it teaches us the respect of saying, well, shoot, I got to be careful about the things that I imply. Like if I imply a directive or a rule or a thing to live by, there's something in me that's listening that actually has the technology and the capacity to carry it out in my life. So I got to be real, real careful about the things that I say, the things that I declare, and the things that I claim to know, because something's listening and it's a very powerful something.
Yeah. I've often said my basic self is wiser than or more connected than my conscious self. My conscious self is the one that is like,
Yeah,
we need
most of
to do this.
the trouble that we often experience in life is framed by the basic self, meaning the experience is set up by the table is set often by the basic self. So through subconscious processes, be that habit or just karma coming up to experience. But then the one that actually steps in the doo-doo is the conscious self in most cases.
Yeah, we've done a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. So
So
then, just to be clear around that foggy whatever that shows up, it's something that I can work with my basic self and or JR. Is that what?
absolutely.
Okay.
You're dealing with parts of yourself. You
Yeah.
experience that's
Yeah.
the sum total of your experiences through the conscious self and the level of experience that's down here. You are experiencing parts of you. Every relationship is inside of you. Therefore, the relationships are with parts of you. And actually, John Roger referenced that in the moment of peace before this talk today
Yeah.
about loving the part of you that is the other person and getting to know the loving that is the other person inside of you.
That part I understand in terms of other people.
Right. So that
But
dark blob is a part of you. It may be a part of you that you don't know how to love yet, but it's still a part of you.
got it. That's really clear. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's very helpful.
Thank you. Um, I saw somebody who looked new, and if you're a new person, I will give you preferential treatment and you'll be able to cut in line. I think there was someone named Haley or something who was raising their hand. I don't recall that name, so if you want to talk, I'd love for you to talk. Maybe, maybe I scared her away. All right, there you go. Um, Duncan, have you shared before? You want to come off camera and give me a yay or nay?
I haven't shared before, Jeffrey.
Great. Let's have you share then.
Okay, thank you. And uh, fascinatingly enough, the moment of peace is probably referring to what I wanted to discuss with you.
Perfect.
Um, I, yeah, during my life, I've identified people that have been very significant to me and brought me in their presence that experience of that deep soulic love that JR talked about in the moment of peace.
Hmm.
Um, my issue that I have around that is that I then tend to get very attached to that person. And this morning I was ruminating, is there such a thing as healthy attachment? And I don't have an answer to that. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about that. I'm doing quite a lot of work internally with myself at the moment to seek to bring my attention back to myself as the source of loving as opposed to identifying it in the other, even though I appreciate at a much greater level that that we're all one. But there's things going on fairly deep within my consciousness um, that label or relate to that other person in quite an intense way, that they're actually a significant trigger for me to have that experience of fullness and wholeness. Do you hear a question in there at all, or do you want me to?
I think I got your question.
Okay.
Partially, your question comes from a misidentification in the sense that the externalized relationships. So when you think that you're having a relationship with somebody outside of you, you've created in your consciousness a perceived subject and object relationship. You, personality, ego, you is the subject, and the object becomes the person who represents to you that loving. Spiritual love primarily sources from the witness of those two. So
Mm-hmm.
neither one. It's not the subject, the you think you are, and it's not the object, the one you think you love. It's the one that is witnessing and loving all of that at the same time.
Yeah, I get it.
So in a way, it's like you frame the question about attachment or healthy or not healthy or right or wrong. I think the healthiest approach is to walk joyfully through your karma, but recognizing that it is in fact just your karma. Or not just your karma. I mean, that's the whole game down here, but like not as like a negative or a wrong, but just
Mm-hmm.
as it does it work or not work for me. It may not work for you, and you may have a high level of attachment as an area of learning and an area of work for you in this particular lifetime. And it's not really a question of is it right or is it wrong or is it good or is it bad? Is it better? Is it worse in that sense? It really is more about getting into the knowing of who you are that is transcendent of all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing what moving into an observation or an objectivity in relation to a karmic dynamic can do. You may and often still do need to walk through it. You may observe that and you may go, wow, there's a lot of attachment, especially at the basic self love. You just start to observe, like, oh, there's a lot of attachment there, and that attachment is expressing this way. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think for me, anything that is pulling me out of that state of joyful emptiness, that state of just being completely available and receptive to the presence of spirit, that's just something that I get to work with. It's not a bad thing. It's just that's where my learning lies. That's where my opportunity lies. And I place my intention on, like, I'm going to find the password. I'm going to find the way out. And as soon as I do, I'm going to naturally move into that awareness of the presence of God that doesn't require a condition externally to me. It's just me. That presence that is within me that doesn't require any action or reaction or any story, doesn't require any explanation, doesn't require any comprehension. My perspective, at least in my life, is it never worked for me to try and avoid or discipline myself out of a karmic dynamic. Like to be, I try to avoid it and go, oh, I'm going into attachment. Let me cut off that relationship because I really shouldn't be in attachment. Well, then I just meet somebody else to be attached to, and then I'm back in the same karma again. But what I have found is that if I truly roll up my sleeves and say, I'm going to do the work on this until I truly and authentically see the pattern and see the way through and complete it, and I really know the password that gets me out of this, then I'm authentically free. And I don't regret all the times because it's like, great, if I didn't have this attachment come up, then I would not have this opportunity to work this. And I would not have found this new level of freedom inside of me that's now available to me because I was willing to take that step and willing to be messy.
I'm definitely off for that. Absolutely. This is probably the first time in my life that I've really taken a head on and gone, okay, I want to work through this. Um, I, I'm using different tools and techniques, but keen to hear if you have anything to share there that you would recommend. Maybe
In
this would
terms
have to segue to a person session or
in
something.
terms of you're saying in terms of it's tough to comment if like is there a specific situation like you're in a friendship and you feel a high level of attachment or you're like what does
Yeah,
attachment look like for you?
I'm in a friendship relationship. It's distant at the moment. Turned a corner recently that made me feel significant amount of threat to my level of attachment. Um, I'm doing everything I can not to project that attachment in my communication with the other person so that they're not feeling the intensity of what's going on inside of me to the best of my ability. And so what that is me just working on being present, slowing down, attempting to process what's going on inside of me rather than communicate it to the other person, journaling, interfacing to the precious present, just in a way, keeping my focus as much as possible and not allowing that energy, which is quite strong within my consciousness, to go into the preoccupation of outside of me with that other person.
Yeah, so I appreciate the intention and sentiment of not wanting to go outside of you and put yourself out of balance to go after the person or go after the reassurance or whatever it is that you're after.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that you might consider is there's nothing off about you working the process inside of you. So if there's a disturbance to the attachment or whatever you have going on, for me, I go inside of me with the person and I say, I'd love to clear the air with you. I don't know what there is between us, but I'd love to get to a place where there's nothing but love between us. And then you
Yeah.
can bring in whatever spiritual assistance you need, whether that's like a John Roger, a spiritual form, or a light, or a loving that comes into the room, and then you start having the dialogue with the person inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
And you
My
place that intention on if there's nothing but unconditional loving between us, the attachment is usually gone. If there's still attachment, that's usually an indicator that something's out of balance, not in the negative sense, but just in the sense that it's not at that open, receptive, void state. So, so
my
you
sorry.
having karma with them is totally fine. Like all of that's great. I'm just saying you can work the process inside of you. You don't really need permission externally to get free inside of you.
Yeah, yeah. It, Interestingly enough, it's not actually about the person. It's about how my unconscious, subconscious patterns have been put together. There's some kind of trigger almost that once I strongly emotionally connect with someone, all of a sudden this starts showing up, and it just builds and builds and builds. So I know deep in my heart with this person and actually with every woman that I've felt this way that there's just pure love. But what's going on other in other levels of my consciousness is this tension, resistance, preoccupation, things like that. So anyway, I don't want to take up too much of your time here. I appreciate what you shared with me, and I can feel myself moving more into that consciousness of freedom, the liberation of being in that soul consciousness.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm I'm noticing that there's a lot going on, kind of in the mental level in relation to it,
Uh-huh.
and in terms of like trying to define or create a story around it. versus just dealing directly with the energy as it is.
Okay.
So like oftentimes when something gets triggered like what you're talking about, like in your case, it may be that there's a more foundational relationship that hasn't incomplete for you, like with a
Yeah.
parent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if that parent, like a mother, was um, in
Mother
incomplete,
passed when I was 1.5 years old.
huh?
My mother passed when I was 1.5 years old.
Yeah. So hypothetically, if you had an incomplete in terms of a kind of an intimacy past a certain point in development,
Mhm.
and hypothetically, if that set up a basic self seeking because there's something wired in that you were missing something,
Mhm.
then hypothetically, your basic self would be seeking that in other people,
Yeah.
wherever it could find that, particularly in the feminine form.
Yeah.
So, what I would suggest is you work on healing that level and even going back in time and seeing yourself being held. And it could be you being held even by a divine feminine, like a Mother Mary form, or it could be you being held by your mother,
Mhm.
or your mother walking with you through all the ages of your life. Do you get what I'm saying? So you can go back in and heal it. You can go back in and fulfill what it is that's actually being sought after. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, but that's different than what you said before. What you said before was more trying to make sense of the raw feeling level with the spiritual structure in your mind of how it works and what you want to have and a spiritual ideal. And that's beautiful. But there's also just the level of your body and the level of like primal needing and and
Uh,
and 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 the and the embodiment of the fulfillment of that need where you don't really have to jump through hoops. It's like you already have all that within you, and you just need to take the time to nurture yourself. And nurturing is a very important word for you,
yes.
a kind of a very like an envelopment of sweetness and nurturing. And you can give that to yourself inside of you, but it's like just recognizing that we're often trying to litigate past incompletes through present action is a good awareness and a good opportunity. And it's a yes and because you may still have karma with the person that you're interacting with now. So you deal with the past, you fulfill your need, you love yourself, you nurture yourself, but then you also clear the air with this person inside of you so that you have nothing but that unconditional, it's like that impersonal perfect self relates to them, and you relate to the impersonal perfect self in them. And then you get a little bit more neutrality there.
Thank you, Jeffrey. That's just so sweet. It just really hit me. Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you. My pleasure. Yeah. Just having fun dealing with my hypotheticals. Did um did that person join back in? No. Guess I scared them away. All good. Lisa, you put down your hand and now I've lost you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, Jeffrey. I really just wanted to thank you. Your service, you just do so much. And I just wanted to share my loving with you, my appreciation with you. Um, and just let you know just how much we appreciate everything you do. Really wanted to share that with you. I know I could have texted you, but I also uh, wanted everybody to just even get to share their appreciation. We just love you so much and thank you. I could ask a question, but that was really what I wanted. I just wanted to appreciate you and know how much we love you. And thank you for your time, your service. It's I know it's more than I could probably imagine. But even when I'm not on call with you, I feel you're loving. So please know how much we love you.
All right. Do you have a question?
Um, I could give you, you started to kind of answer it, but if you have any feedback on loving those parts of us that we may find difficult to love, such as our angry parts of ourselves, parts that are being stubborn or kicking and screaming, I am open to feedback about that.
Yeah, so for me, there's a really a key for me is humor. So I find that if I can find the part of me that's messy really funny and entertaining, then that's really helpful. Um, I think that we're programmed implicitly through ideals to avoid the opposite of those ideals. So we may be raised with very positive reference points. And in my case, for example, I patterned a lot off of John Roger. But in my consciousness, it's like this implication that he was very much at a distance from me, that I could never attain that, which I don't think he was trying to convince me of, and trying to live up to the ideals of what I thought. I mean, and we never really have a complete view of anyone because, even the most sacred saint on the planet visits the latrine once a day if they're healthy. So it's just that there's parts of being human that are true of for all of us. So, um, one thing that I find really, really helpful is to recognize myself in the ideals that I strive for, and then also recognize the opposite of those ideals in me, and then start to recognize how they are, in fact, part of me, and that I do, in fact, appreciate them and find them very entertaining and very positive. It's like you get to a place where it's like I would be triggered if people thought I was an asshole or mean. And there's a point at which I realized, oh, wow, there were certain things I couldn't really get done effectively with customer service unless they thought I was pissed off. So I play the part that they need in order to escalate appropriately to get the result that works for both of us. So I play the part while I'm loving the other person on the customer service. And so I'll bluster and I'll act really angry and offended. But then in fact it's something, it's kind of funny and entertaining. So it's like I can adore the asshole in me and find the asshole in me very, very funny and very, very entertaining. And it's like you could take this to the extreme of like, well, there's not really a murder in me. And then you go, well, wait a minute. Have you ever killed a spider? Oh, certainly. Well, I could blame my wife and my son. They're afraid of the spider, and they forced me to kill the spider. Even better, they forced me. They forced my hand. They made me a spider murderer. But from the perspective of the spider, I'm a vicious killer. But then I realized, well, if that's true, then thank God I'm a vicious killer because it's part of me protecting the people that I love from their fear of spiders. And so
Mm.
it's this radical perspective of recognizing that we as humans contain the totality of expression within us. We choose to behave in ways that are, let's say, ecologically responsible, like human ecology. We don't hurt ourselves and don't hurt others. We try to take care of ourselves so we can help take care of others. We try to use everything for upliftment, growth, and learning. But that doesn't mean we can't love and adore and find adorable all the parts of us that seem to fall short. And sometimes it's fun to even give it a name. Like if you have Rageful Rita or something like that. Now there's probably Rita on this call is like, how dare you? But I was just looking for alliteration. But if you have like a part of you that's really pissed off and you try to avoid her,
Mm.
maybe give her a pet name. Just tell her, hey, Rita, what is it you need to express today? And what's the best way to nurture you? Or,
Gotcha.
or if somebody cuts in line and they need to think that you're really mad so that they don't do that, or if somebody, you're at the DMV and somebody cuts in front and takes your spot, sometimes you just very practically, it's good to pull out the I'm enraged look to
Mhm.
get the result that you want. So you bring Rita out and let her do her thing. You did a great job, sweetheart. You got me to the front of the line. Thank you. Nobody
That's
cuts in front of me.
Angry Alice, Dark Side of the Night Chasers. That makes total
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And as I'm listening to you, the word intention comes forward, and I know how powerful that is. I've been discovering that, and I think that's going to be really helpful.
I think if your intention becomes loving all of you and being all of you, see, that's the funny part. The times when I have tried so hard not to be the thing that I don't want to be, I inevitably find myself being the thing that I don't want to be. So it's like I don't want people to think I'm a jerk. So I try to silence my family and say, don't embarrass me in front of these people. And I'm like, oh, I'm being a jerk. I'm being a jerk. And when I let it go and go, yeah, people might find me to be a jerk. That's okay. People feel the warmth and they feel safe around me. So it really is, it's like for me, it starts with this commitment to say that, listen, I'm not going to do performance art anymore. If I'm not feeling lovey dovey, whatever, I'm not going to bullshit myself or others. So I think for me, like you said, intention, I no longer have the intention to appear a certain way, nor do I have the intention not to offend people. I have the intention to authentically love myself and others in totality and to be authentic in my expression. And when I'm in my karma, I don't lie to myself or others. I am very, very honest and say, I don't know how to love that person yet. I don't know how to be nice to that person yet. They piss me off. I don't really know. But I say, I'm going to figure it out. And I may put their picture in my little shrine and go to them every day and light a candle and say, Lord, I want to know how to love this person authentically. And until I do, I might be a shit to them whenever I see them. And that's just going to have to be okay.
Mm.
And the funny part is, I've had that experience of like getting really irritated and being really, really honest until it just breaks. Like there's usually a moment. And that's the other secret for me. We're presented with these really crazy moments every day. And I started calling them like the Rubicon of love. Like there's this scene supposedly happened when Caesar was crossing the Rubicon. They had a law that Roman armies at the time were led by various kind of like, I guess, senators or like high up families. You would have your own army, but armies couldn't go back into Rome past a certain line, past the Rubicon River. And Caesar was there and he realized that if he crossed the Rubicon, it was a point of no return, that he was at war with the Senate, he was at war with the establishment. And there was only one eventuality: either he would lose or they would lose. And it was like this definite action that couldn't be reversed. I call them the Rubicon of love because I find that there are these moments where we are given the opportunity to do something that makes no sense, but happens to be the most loving thing possible. And not from an ideal perspective, from like a personal medicinal perspective. I would often tell the story of this one lady who just pissed me off to no end. We were working together uh, at the corporation I was working at, and she was, very conservative, kind of like military, like her dad was in the military, and she was like very solemn, and she was like almost old school 40s. She wishes she was an actress, and we were working at the studio, but not like a modern actress, like a 1940s actress. So it was like she was like playing this whole gimmick of like being this 1940s, like, spunky reporter or something from like a, black and white film. And she would be like so direct and so rude and so serious all the time, like always angry. Such a drag. Like anything you would ask her or do anything with her, it was like a million times more effort than with anybody else. And so it was like, oh my God, I cannot even deal with this. Fast forward, my skills are starting to be noticed. I'm starting to be given a lot more responsibility in the department. And I'm given a project that's very, very high profile. And I'm given the ability to handpick my team. And my boss specifically says to me, I want you to know I won't blame you if you don't pick so and so and include her on what you're doing, right? And it was like one of these moments where it just hit me like I have to invite her. Not because it's like the right thing to do, but it was like because it's the thing I don't want to do.
Mm.
It's hard to explain. Like, when there's this moment where God is giving you the opportunity to just jump off the cliff and then fly, right? It's like this is the window. And you don't know when another time is ever going to open up to get free of a karma.
Mhm.
And so I went to her, and it was like painful. I was like, do you want to, like I was like forcing myself, and I invited her to join the project, and her face lit up. It was like, she was like, who, me? It was like that kind of thing. And as we started to work together, I got to know her, and I realized that, so first off, she started being really nice to me. And so it became really wonderful to watch her be a shit to everybody else and then be really nice to me, like kind of bark at somebody and then turn to me smiling. So that was really entertaining. But apart from that, I discovered that she donated 100 toys at Christmas, that she would give a liter or however much of blood a month for veterans, that on Veterans Day or Memorial Day, she would put 500 flags on the graves of fallen soldiers. 500. And so this person that I thought was such a shit was actually a saint. And nobody knew she did all this. I mean, she just finally admitted it to me. And I was like, why do you do all this? And she's like, it's just what you do. That's what she said. It's just the thing to do. And it occurred to me that I wish the world had more of her in it. Like, I wish we lived in a world full of people like her, even if they have angry looking faces and act like 40s actresses for no reason. That the world would be a much better place with more of her in it. And that I never would have known that. I never would have known the saint in her if I didn't jump off that cliff, if I didn't cross that Rubicon at that moment. So, the other key to loving more parts of yourself is to pick the people that you like least and be unreasonably loving with them, especially when it feels really, really bad to do it. When you want to tell them off, write them a love note. not because it's a manipulation, not because it's like the right thing to do, not because you're morally superior, but genuinely and meaningfully write them a note that is the most loving thing you've ever written in your life. And I swear to you, you will never be the same again. And I can guarantee that there is a person that you judge that corresponds to every part of you that you find unlovable. And that the second you do what I'm talking about with them, you will find that part of you lovable all of a sudden and for no reason. So if you don't like the angry part of you, there's someone you know who's an anger addict who you just are not okay with. And I can't believe that person just, they always raise their voice and it's so rude. And how could they do that? And the way they talk to waitresses and waiters, and it's just so offensive. I can't believe. And if you just do that, that one thing that you're like, I'm never going to do that for them, they don't deserve that. And if you just do it anyway, you're never going to be the same again. And all of a sudden, it's going to be okay that you're angry. So that's another trick.
That's fabulous, Jeffrey. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing, and just thank you so much again for all of your loving here and behind the scenes. We love you.
Yeah, no problem. That's funny because now people are going to watch this. And then when they get a love note from somebody on this call, they're going to be like, wait, what are you trying to say? You know. Anyway. Okay. My goodness, time flies when you're having fun. Um, well, I'm going to call it a night, and I am going to take a hint or clue from John Roger, who there were certain things that I was told didn't happen, such as MSIA services on the 12 days of Christmas. So I am going to take this next week off from talks, and I will return. I guess it's the 3rd. So Saturday the 3rd will be the next time I do a weekly connect. So this is the last time I'll see you for in this forum, and I'm wishing you a beautiful holiday celebration, however you celebrate and with whomever you celebrate, and wishing you a happy new year. Again, if you know anybody who's new to this work, to any spiritual work, really, whoami.love. And if you're local to LA, and if you know somebody who is local to LA and really new to what we do, we're going to be having an event January 17th and more events to come online. But there you go. God bless you. I love you. Peace be still. The blessings already are.